Melanie, welcome to BroadBand.
Thank you, Denise. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm super excited for folks to learn about your business and who you are. So we're going to start off with the easy question. What is your business?
My business is that I help people research their Italian ancestors and also if they are eligible to reclaim Italian citizenship by blood.
Okay, is that a pretty tough process? I mean, is it research take a lot of time to do that? I mean, they need someone like you.
Sure, it certainly can, depending on what your goals are. If your goal is to research your whole genealogy back to the beginning of time, then that's going to take a while. So yeah, and it can be real time consuming, but it's very fulfilling to help people discover their family.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about 18 years. Wow. First part-time, and then I went full-time about 10 years ago.
And why did you pick this line of work to start this business?
Well, initially it was somewhat of a necessity. I was home with a young child and I needed to draw in some income without having to leave the house because I had a young child. So I started studying and I started helping some people with their research, and it just sort of bloomed from there. And at one point I went to Salt Lake City to the Family History Library, and I didn't even have a concept that people could actually do that professionally to that point. And I saw this one woman working in the records of a town I had worked in, an Italian town. And so I talked to her, and she worked for a company out in Salt Lake City, and a professional genealogy company, and they helped people research their ancestors. And that was really eye-opening to me that there was even such a thing.
Look at that
out there.
Yeah. So there are other businesses that do what you do, but what would you say are the top 3 things that make you really unique and special?
I think it's because we really care about what we do. We really put a lot into it. We spend a lot of time, responding to clients, trying to be really responsive. We like to add really interesting things to the reports, like we find someone, was born on a certain street. We'll go to Google Street View and we'll try to get some pictures of that so they can sort of get the feel for exactly where their ancestor was born. So yes, and I think, we do go above and beyond at times.
A personal touch.
Yeah.
It's not all the data, all the research, or some,
right.
personality to it. So we're going to do a little time travel. We're going to go back to your younger self. And well, you're going to go yourself. You're just going to tell me about it later. But let's say you go back to your younger self. What kind of advice would you give yourself in finding your way to where you are now? Whether, it's professional advice or really about your business. What kind of advice would you instill in yourself at a younger age?
My advice would be not to listen to what I was told. And to actually go to school for business administration, to actually believe in myself, to believe that I actually was capable to do such a thing as own my own business, and not believe the naysayers that were telling me that I wasn't capable at that time. So, having hindsight, of course, is 20/20, but I really wish I had gone to school for 4 years or 6 years, get my MBA, that sort of thing. Because when I did try to start my business, I really felt at a disadvantage.
It's an interesting topic because I'm a non-degreed professional as well. It's interesting how higher education and having those degrees can or do not or what have you. I was just watching a quick blip on someone's social media about, is it Elon Musk? What is his name? The car guy?
Elon Musk?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an excerpt of him saying, and I'm not going to quote it exactly, but saying, Yeah, college is really about just having fun. It's not really about learning. You can be very successful in life without a college degree, which you can.
Mhm.
But I thought it was funny how he's just like, oh, yeah, college is just really unnecessary. But I don't agree with that either.
I
But,
don't agree with that either.
but,
College is what you make it.
exactly.
And I have a daughter in college, and I tell her this, college is what you put into it. If you're going to party the whole time, then you're not going to get much out of college.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to switch it up here. Let's say you go 5 years in the future. What do you think your future self would share with you if you bumped into each other?
I think this is the one question that I was having the most trouble coming up with a good answer for. I think this last year I took some risks and took some chances, and I think my future self will be very happy with me about that. I've invested money into the business and took the business in several different avenues. So I think that would be what I'd be happy with myself about.
I think that's a great answer.
Good.
Who has influenced you professionally?
There was, various professional genealogists and that sort of thing. But I didn't really want to focus on that with this question. I named my business after my great-grandfather, Antonio Lo Schiavo, who came to America with no money, married here, married another Italian immigrant, had 9 children, and then his wife died in the 1918 epidemic, and influenza epidemic. So here he was single, raising his 8 kids. 8 were surviving at that time, and running a business. By that time he had a business. He actually had 2 businesses. And he ran that and raised his family, didn't marry again, and also sent money and food and everything back to his family in Italy this whole time. Even when they didn't have much themselves, he supported his family back in Italy. And to me, that's not only the American dream, but that just shows a man of character, and a man who fought through everything life threw him.
Do you think we're in different times nowadays? Do you think that work ethic, that ethic, the way of living back in the day, do you think it's prevalent nowadays?
With some people, but I also think we've kind of gotten a little entitled in this country, and we don't necessarily work as hard, I think, as our ancestors did, or do with as little. We may work very hard, but we also, expect a lot in return.
Yeah. It's interesting as I talk to each one of my guests, I want to say so far, everyone has mentioned family as being an influence on them. And that's, I think, pretty cool. Very cool. So when was your moment of saying, you know what? I think I got this. Meaning not it's over, it's done, I've hit it all, whatever, but where your confidence, you felt, you know what? I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Really a few years ago. I worked like 8 years part-time and held down a full-time job also on this before I felt that I had enough client base and the ability to go full-time in the business. And I think maybe the first 5 years were kind of a struggle. I think most businesses fail within the first 7 years. And so it's these last 5 years, maybe the last 6 years, that I really felt I've got my feet under me. I know what I'm doing. I'm pushing the business forward, and things are going pretty well, at least until 2020 happened.
Girl, we're not going to go there. 2020, what a year. My gosh. Woo. Well, okay. So how do you celebrate your wins? You have this confidence. You started this business about 18 years ago. You must build into your experience how you celebrate your successes or your wins. How do you do that?
I do that by travel, really treating myself to travel, to giving myself a break at times, when I've just reached my physical limit. I'm not getting any older, but I think when I was in my 20s, I didn't have the capability to do what I'm doing. So it's kind of good that I started when I did.
Yeah, makes total sense. And if you were talking with someone who was thinking about starting their own business, stepping out on that ledge of self-employment, what would be some of the advice you would share with them?
I had two main things. To make sure your business is capitalized. If you step out and you have $50 in your bank account, that's going to be a struggle for the next 10 years. Just make sure you have some money behind you, that you can live on, that you can, do business on for at least a year. And secondly, is to invest in yourself, in educating yourself in business and time management. My business exploded very quickly, which is good. I'm very proud of that, and I'm very happy about that. But I was catching up in learning how to manage a business of that size, and in learning how to manage the time, needed to manage a business and raise a family and everything that goes along with that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been at this about 18, almost 2 decades. I've only been at this really for a year, and it's interesting. It's not just doing the work for the clients. It's doing the work for the business, and it's doing the marketing, and it's doing the outreach, and it's doing the operations and your bookkeeping. And you have to figure out the best way to organize your time to be the most effective that you can be.
Right. And sometimes I actually have a team. And so as things got bigger, I split my team into the research side and the citizenship side, so that, and put a team manager on the top of each one of those, so that I could have more time for, working on the social media, doing the accounting, the actual business management aspect of things.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have a team yet. Well, I do have a team, but they're not a team. They're collaborative partners, but someday I hope to have a team like yours. What would you say was one of the most surprising things about being a business owner that you discovered?
Interpersonal issues with clients. It's interesting. You meet so many different types of people. I had one, lady just call me on a Saturday on my business line and tell me that my name, the business name, did not match in gender. So in the Italian language, and I said, excuse me? I said, I'm sorry, Lo Schiavo is my name. So names do not change with the gender they're referring to. But I just, I thought it was very interesting that someone felt the need to call me and tell me that.
You're such a troublemaker, Melanie.
So those sorts of things, have been surprising to me. I'm a very practical person. And so when, people aren't practical, people do things like that, it just confuses me.
Yeah.
And, I just don't understand, how people can be like that sometimes.
Yeah, people are very interesting. They keep us on our toes, that's for sure. So are you kind of like a every little bit counts kind of person, or are you an all or nothing kind of person?
Every little bit counts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
And would you say, if you use a scale of 1 to 10 as far as risk taking, and 1 is like a super duper scaredy cat, nothing wrong with that, and 10 is the first women astronaut, where would you be on that scale?
I think now at my age, it's different than what my answer would have been in my 20s. But now I would say I'm around a 7 towards the risky aspect of things.
What would you have been at 20?
Probably more of a 5.
Look at that. I love hearing that.
Yeah. So, now I am more apt to take risks. And actually, I was thinking about that this week as I chose the next year's deduction in my 401k for my 401k. So how, part of the questions they ask you is, how much risk you want to take, to determine how to split your money.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that your years of living has helped you become more of a risk taker.
Yeah, and I think it's because maybe I'm just more confident in my decision making too.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes a huge difference, trusting yourself. No matter what, you're going to make the best decision you can.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not really up to whatever else or other people think. It's really what resonates with you,
right?
In my opinion. How much time do you devote to other professional development?
It varies, but probably 4 to 5 hours a week. Mainly, this last few years, a lot of my professional development has been pushing forward in the Italian language, trying to become more fluent, keeping up with new advances in records that are coming out and access to such, that sort of thing.
Okay. I got to up my game. I mean, everyone I've talked to, they're spending like way more time. Now, not that, I love learning. Okay. I love the learning, and it's just interesting. I do a lot of personal development time learning, and I'm also focusing on anti-racism and white privilege learning, or unlearning actually, and relearning. But I really have to make a concerted effort to be focused on the professional development, whether it's what's the latest trend on digital marketing or copywriting tips or whatever, or how to really manage your finances and stuff like that. So I got to get on that game. I got to up my game on that.
I do most of mine on the weekends.
Okay.
Because my job is very mental, and sometimes by the end of the day, there's not much left upstairs.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So a lot of my, learning is done on the weekends.
Well, that's another question. How do you take care of yourself to keep that momentum? What are some of the other things that you do?
Spending time with my family is a big one. They are my release of stress, that sort of thing. I love to travel. I now have an apartment over in Italy, so I go over there for extended periods of time and just, do work, but I also enjoy myself.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll get to go back soon.
We hope.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you have any resources for any books or podcasts or blogs that have helped either germane to your service or helping you as a business owner?
There was a book I read about 2 years ago, and it was called 15 Secrets that Successful People Know About Time Management. And I think it was Kevin Krause, something like that, who did that one. And what he did is he called a couple hundred entrepreneurs, well-known entrepreneurs, and asked them to give him 3 or 4 paragraphs on that subject. And it was really interesting reading through the mindset of that many entrepreneurs. Everyone has a little bit different take on things, though you can see some patterns, as you read through them. Very successful entrepreneurs are very driven. They're very scheduled, I would say. So you can see patterns as you go through that. But I learned a lot through that book.
Okay, I'll be sure to Google that and add that to the show notes. At where you're at in your career now as a business owner, what is, say, your professional vision at this point in your life? Because you've been doing this work for a couple of decades. I'm sure you're far from done. I hope you're far from done. But when you look into your future, COVID or no COVID or what have you, what do you see for yourself in the future?
I see myself living in Europe most of the year.
And I'm going to come visit you.
And doing business. But I also, in the last few years, we've been expanding our services so that we can offer citizenship applications on site in Italy. And so I see that as growing, really well, and hopefully expanding a lot, and therefore spending a lot more time over there.
That would be lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Very lovely. So I have one final question for you, which is a series of questions. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. What is your favorite flower?
The hibiscus.
Coffee?
I love them because they don't require any work,
Oh.
and they just remain beautiful all season.
Okay, that sounds like a good flower to have in a garden. Coffee or tea?
Both, really, though I love a good peppermint tea. I really love that.
Tahiti or Paris?
Paris, of course, as long as I never have to go through Charles de Gaulle ever again. The airport, that is just a horrible airport.
Okay, mental note, next time I fly to Paris. Are you an intention setter or a goal getter?
A goal getter or a goal setter?
Oh, I'm sorry, either one.
Yeah, I guess I'm more of a goal setter. I actually, even my time in my project management program, there's a section where you can set your goals, and I do that, just sort of keep myself on track with the overall business goals.
Okay. And do you have a favorite quote you can share with us?
Yeah, mine comes from a pastor, Charles Swindoll. He said, life is 10% on 10% of what happens to you and 90% on how you react to it. And really that has been my experience throughout my whole life. Everyone's going to have bad things. Life does not go easily, but it's your reaction determines what's going to happen after that.
Melanie, thank you so much. It has been such a treat to spend this time with you and have you share a little bit of your history or your background in your business and some of your other insights. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Denise, for having me.